Good day, everyone. Welcome to lecture number 21 of Computer Organization and Architecture. And in this particular lecture, basically, we will be wrapping up the entire processor pipelining chapter. So we will provide some summaries and we will also discuss interrupts and precise exceptions, how they are handled in case of a processor pipeline. And we will do one or two problems where we will see how we can evaluate the CPI or how we can evaluate the performance of a processor. Okay. So in pipeline, we discussed about the hazards. One hazard was a data hazard and another hazard, control hazard. And third kind of hazard was a structural hazard. And we know structural hazard is basically when two or more instructions are trying to access the same resource. Okay, but we won't discuss that kind of hazard here. We will only summarize these two hazards, data hazard and control hazard. In terms of data hazards, we have three types of hazards: raw hazard, read after write, wow hazard, and war hazard. And in these hazards, only the first one is the true hazard or true dependence. Okay, and these two are only there if we have out of order execution. Okay, what is the meaning of out of order? For example, if I have a program, I have program like this: I1, I2, and I3. So in order execution means that I am executing the instructions in this order. So the first thing I will execute is I1, then I2, then I3. Out of order is there that in a pipeline, I can change the order of instructions. However, my final output should not change. Okay, so then it is called out of order execution. What is the meaning of out of order execution? That we can change the order of instructions. And if we are allowing out of order execution in our pipeline, then these two hazards have to be handled. Okay, so in order execution, we don't have to handle these two scenarios because there won't be any kind of such dependency in order execution. However, raw hazard, this kind of dependency is in all the processors, whether it is an in-order processor or out-of-order processor. And we have provided solution for a raw hazard. One was a software solution. The software solution was inserting instructions between two dependent instructions. And the next one was hardware solution. And the hardware solution was forwarding, data forward. Okay, now let's see about these two hazards, wow hazard and war hazard. So let me rub these things here. Okay, now as I said that these two hazards, wow hazard and war hazard, they are there only in case of our out of order execution, and also they are there because of limited number of registers. Okay, if we have infinite or large number of registers, then we can easily remove this kind of dependency, having large number of registers. So we have already discussed how that can be removed, because these dependencies are because of limited number of registers. Another solution to the wow and war hazards is register renaming. Okay, register renaming. What is the meaning of register renaming? Let's take two instructions. Let's take an instruction. Let me write two instructions here. Add x1 comma x2 comma x3, and the next instruction is add x1 comma x4 comma x5. So in these two instructions, so for these two instructions, we have wow dependency, because they are writing to the same register, X1 and X2. Now, if I do one thing, what? I will rename one of the register here. Let's say this is my register. So rename this register some other register. Okay. For example, let me rename it as P1. So now this instruction will be this particular instruction, or I can say the new instructions will be add X1, X2, X3, and the second will become add P1, X4, X5. Now you can see by renaming my registers, this register, is there a wow dependency here? No, there is no wow dependency. So by doing a register renaming, I can easily remove these two hazards, wow hazard and war hazard. However, how we are doing the renaming, how the solution, how, or we can say where this P1 is coming from this register, because our registers are X1, X2, X3. These are called architectural registers. And the registers that are used for renaming are called physical registers. Okay, but the complete discussion about the renaming, how the renaming is done, how architectural and physical registers are related to each other, that is out of scope of this discussion. So we won't be discussing that particular scenario in this lecture. But you have to remember that using a renaming technique, we can easily remove these two types of dependencies. Okay. Then comes the other dependency. What was the other dependency? The other dependency or the other hazard is a control hazard. And we know that control hazard is because of branch instructions. Okay. So control hazards are there because of branch instructions. Okay. Whenever we have a branch. And before discussing this, we know that because of raw hazard, there are 3-cycle penalty. There is a 3-cycle penalty in case of a 5-stage pipeline. Now let's take a branch instruction. As I said that because of branch instruction, there will be a 2-cycle penalty. Okay. And the solution to handle the branch dependency are, one solution was delayed branching and another solution was branch prediction. We discussed both these two solutions. Fine. So this was the summary about the data hazards and control hazards. Now let's discuss about the interrupts and how they are handled in our pipeline. Okay, let's see the interrupts. So what is an interrupt? Okay, so what is an interrupt? For example, let's say currently I am recording a video on my computer. Okay, so my processor is running my recorder application or recorder this program. It is running this particular program. Now let's say in the meantime, I pressed some key on the keyboard. What will happen? Okay, so what I am saying that I am currently running a recorder application on my computer system, but during the execution of this program, I am, let's say, executing or I am pressing a key on the keyboard. Then what will happen? What is going to happen that from this input device, this keyboard is an input device, a signal will be generated and that signal will be sent to a processor. This particular signal, which may come from an input output device or which may come from a memory or it may come from some other component. This signal which disrupts the normal execution of a processor. That means the processor receives this signal and it stops the execution of its current program. Okay, after stopping the current program, based on this signal, it runs one program. that program will handle this particular signal. Okay, whatever may be the signal. For example, if I am pressing a key on the keyboard, the signal may be the name of that key. For example, if I am pressing S, then there will go a signal which will represent that a key S has been pressed on the keyboard. And based on the signal, a specific program will be run. And this program will handle this signal, or we can say it will run some instructions that will do the procedure in order to handle this output signal. This program, this signal, which is coming from an input output device, memory, or some other component, or from the program itself, which disrupts the normal execution of a processor, this signal is called an interrupt. Okay, and for an interrupt, our processor stops the normal program and it starts some other program which handles this signal, and this program is called interrupt handler. And after completing this program, we return back to our normal program. Okay. Now, as I said in the discussion, we have interrupts, and another term that is used is exceptions. What is an exception? Exception is basically an unwanted, or we can say a signal that is generated by a program, but this signal is when we are trying to do some illegal operation. When our program is trying to do an illegal operation, then in that scenario, a signal will be generated. That particular signal is called an exception. So what is the difference between an interrupt and an exception? Interrupt is a signal from an input output device. Okay, and based on this signal, we have to run some program. Likewise, exception is also a signal, but it is generated when we are trying to do an illegal operation. For example, if our program is trying to do divide by zero, we know divide by zero is an illegal operation. So whenever my program is doing this, a signal will be sent to our processor by the operating system. Okay, it will send an exception to my processor, and based on this exception, it will perform some program to handle this particular exception. Or in other words, for example, I have a program and that is accessing some memory, a memory which it should not access. Okay, then in that particular case also, that will be an exception, and I have to send a signal to my processor. So processor will stop the current program or current process and will handle that particular exception or interrupt. Okay, so now we have to see how we can handle interrupts and exceptions. So let's only discuss one here, interrupt, because that will also apply for exceptions as well. Okay, so how our processor is going to handle interrupts and exceptions. So before discussing this, let me give the definition of precise exception. What is the meaning of a precise exception? Okay, so interrupt handling, we know what is interrupt handling. So what is a precise exception? So we can call it a precise exception or a precise interrupt. So precise exception says that whenever we have an exception, okay, for example, I have a processor. This is my processor. We know this processor has how many stages? 5 stages. So I am making 5 stages here. So let's say instruction I1 is in write back stage, instruction I2 is in memory access stage, instruction I3 is in execute stage, instruction I2 is in operand fetch stage and instruction 1 is in fetch stage. So at one particular time, there may be 5 instructions in the pipeline. Okay. Now what precise exception says that whenever an exception is generated by a program, okay, so by generating this exception, we know that we have to run some program. Okay, let's say the instructions of this program are P1, P2, P3. These are the instructions of this program or exception handler. This is the exception handler. So what precise exception says that if my processor is executing the instructions and during the execution of the instruction exception occurs, okay, then what should I do? I should, as we know that what is the general scenario? General scenario is I should stop my program, current program, and I should run the exception handler. So please, so here I have written these instructions repeatedly. So let me rewrite this again. So this is I4, this is I. Okay. So the normal is that whenever an exception is there, we have to stop the program. But we know that how many instructions are there in the pipeline? There are 5 instructions in the pipeline. Okay, so precise exception says, or we can say an exception is said to be precise such that, let's say I K is the last instruction that has been completed when this exception occurred. Okay, so that means I have completed which instruction? IK. And when I completed this instruction, this exception has occurred. Then no instruction after IK should complete, no instruction of the actual program should complete before these instructions. Okay, so what should be the next instruction that should complete after IK? Next instruction should be P1, then P2, then P3. After P3, we can start our actual program. Let's say the next instruction is IK plus 1. Then in that particular scenario, the exception is said to be a precise exception. So you can see a precise exception is a way to handle exceptions in our processor pipeline. So what I am saying, an exception is said to be a precise exception. It is called a precise exception, such that whenever an exception occurs, whenever this precise exception occurs, if IK is the last instruction that has been completed in my processor, okay, then no instruction after IK should complete before the instructions of this exception handler. Okay, so no instruction of my actual program should complete before these instructions, then only it is called a precise exception. And let's see how we can make every exception in our processor pipeline as a precise exception. Okay, let's see how we can make it. Let's say, as I said, for example, in my pipeline, let's say we have these instructions, these 5 instructions, I1, I2, I3, I4, I5. Okay, so I1 is in register write back, I2 is in memory access, I3 in execute, I4 in operand fetch, I5 in instruction fetch. So let's say an exception occurred at this particular point when I have 5 instructions in the pipeline, and this exception is running these instructions P1, P2, and P3. So when an exception occurred, I have to mark one instruction in the pipeline, any instruction of your choice. You can mark this instruction, this instruction, this instruction, this instruction, or this instruction. That is your choice. So mark one instruction in the pipeline as last instruction instruction before exception. Before exception. Let's say we have marked this I3 as the last instruction before exception. So what we are going to do, we will remove these two, I4 and I5. Okay. And we will allow these instructions to go into the pipeline. And after I3, we will insert P1 in the pipeline, then P2, then P3. Okay. And after P3, we will again start executing I4. So what we are doing, whenever an exception is there, so what we are going to do in a pipeline, we will mark one instruction as a last instruction. So we have marked here which instruction? I3 as last instruction. So whatever the instruction is before this, before I3. So what we are before I3, I2 and I1. So those instructions will be allowed to complete. And after I3, we will start the instructions of this exception handler. So let's see if this is now a precise exception. So what is the definition of precise exception? Precise exception was saying if IK is the last instruction before an exception, then all instructions after this IK should execute after these instructions. Okay, and everything before IK should complete before these instructions. So what? There are two conditions. One, all instructions after IK, after IK, they should complete after exception handler. Exception. And all instructions before IK, they should complete before exception handler. Okay, so what we were doing, we were saying that whenever an exception occurred, we will mark instructions and complete all the instructions before this particular instruction. Then we will allow these instructions to go into the pipeline. Now you can easily see here that by handling exception in this manner, every exception will be a precise exception and we won't be having any issue in the final results. So this is how exceptions are handled in our processor pipeline. So how we are handling exceptions? We are handling exceptions by making every exception as a precise exception. And how we are making every exception as a precise exception? Whenever an exception is there, we will mark one instruction in the pipeline as the last instruction before the exception. And we will allow all instructions before that marked instruction to complete. And then after that instruction, we will allow exception handler instructions to go into the pipeline. And when those instructions are completed, then only we will again start our program. So this is how exceptions or interrupts are handled in our processor pipeline. Okay, so this completes our discussion about the interrupts and how they are handled in case of our processor pipeline. And another thing that we have to remember, so let me rub these things first. So whenever an exception occurs in our program, so let's say this was my main program. So it was running. Okay. Now let's say exception occurred. So exception is running some other program. Let's say program P. So when my main program was running, it was updating the registers. Okay. And during its execution, interrupt has occurred. And because of that interrupt, we have to run some program. And this program will also update registers. So that means if my main program was writing to the registers, those registers will be written by this new program. Okay. So that means whenever I am moving from main program to some other program, I have to save the registers of this particular program. Okay. And that is done by saving these registers onto the stack, or we can say onto a memory. And this mechanism of saving registers on memory is called sipling of registers. Okay. So we are sipling the data from registers into the memory, and the reverse will be taking data from memory and placing that data into the registers. Okay. So now let's see some of the examples discussing how to evaluate the performance of processors. Okay. So for an idle processor, if we have an idle processor, so idle processor, what is the meaning of idle processor? Idle processor means that there is no hazard in this particular processor, and it is uniform. Uniform means all the stages have similar delay. Let's consider we have an idle processor with CPI equal to 1. So CPI of the idle processor is 1. Let's say on the same processor, now I am writing a program. And this program has 10% instructions. That for 10% of instructions, there is a raw hazard. Raw hazard. Okay. So for 10% of instructions, there is raw hazard. So what will be the CPI of this program on this particular processor? Okay. So what I am saying that 10% of instructions have raw hazard. We know CPI is equal to CPI. What is the meaning of CPI? CPI means cycles per instruction. So how many cycles are required to complete one instruction? In the previous scenario, how many cycles were required to complete one instruction? One cycle was required because CPI was equal to 1. So one cycle. Let's say I have X instructions. Total, I have how many instructions? X. So CPI for those X instructions, or we can say the total cycles required to run those X instructions will be how many cycles? X cycles. Because for one instruction, we will require how many cycles? One cycle. This was in case of an idle scenario when we don't have any hazard. Now we are saying 10% of instructions have raw hazard. 10% of X will be 0.1X. So for these instructions, we will require extra how many cycles? 3 cycles. Okay. So for X, these 0.1X instructions, we will require 3 cycles extra. So that means if we multiply by 3 this, so these cycles will be the extra cycles required to run this particular program. So how many cycles will be total? Total will be these cycles and these extra cycles. So total will be X. So I will write total cycles will be X plus 0.1X into 3. So it will be X plus 0.3X, or I can write 1.3X. So 1.3X cycles are required to complete how many instructions? X instructions. Okay. Then how many cycles will be required to complete one instruction? For X instructions, we will require 1.3X cycles. So for one instruction, we will require 1.3 cycles. Okay, so that means CPI will be equal to 1.3. So CPI will be equal to 1.3. Okay, so this is the CPI when we are running this kind of program on this processor. Or in general terms, the general equation is CPI will be equal to CPI idle. So whatever is the idle CPI plus penalty. Okay, fine. So CPI idle plus penalty. So let's do by using this equation. So CPI will be equal to CPI idle. What is CPI idle? 1 plus. Now let's see the penalty. Penalty per instruction. So here it is penalty per instruction. Okay. So what was the penalty for X instruction is? For X instruction is we have 10% raw dependency. So the penalty was these cycles. For 0.3x penalty was there for how many instructions? X instructions. So per instruction will be divided by X. That will be equal to 0.3. So we will write CPI will be equal to 1 plus 0.3. That will be equal to 1.3. Or in other words, the other equation, the same equation can be written as CPI will be equal to CPI idle plus fraction of instructions with a hazard into penalty. Fraction of instructions with a hazard into penalty. So now let's use this equation. What will be CPI? So CPI will be equal to CPI idle. What is CPI idle? CPI idle is 1 plus fraction of instructions with a hazard. So what is the total fraction? Total fraction is 10%, or we can write total fraction is 0.1. Okay, so it will be 0.1 into fraction means out of total how many? So 0.1 because 10% of the total into penalty. What is the penalty associated with this hazard? 3. So it will be 1.0.3. That will be equal to 1.3. Okay. Now let's write the same program again. Same problem, but now let's increase a little bit complexity. But we will use these equations only to calculate the CPI. Okay. So let me say that idle CPI idle is equal to 1. Now let's say I have to run a program. And in this program, 10% instructions have raw dependency. And we know that for raw, how many cycle penalty will be there? 3. And 20% of instructions are branch instructions. So that means 20% of instructions have control dependency. And because of control dependency, how many extra cycles will be there? 2 cycles. Now let's see what will be the CPI for this particular program. So what is the CPI? CPI, let's use this equation. CPI is equal to CPI idle plus penalty per instruction. Let's say we have X instructions total. So out of these extra X instructions, 0.1, 10% or 0.1X instructions have which penalty? Raw penalty. So penalty will be 0.1X into 3 plus 20% have how many? 2 cycles. So that means 0.2x have 2 cycle penalty. So what will be the total penalty? Total penalty will be 0.3x plus 0.4x. that will be equal to 0.7x. So for x instruction is, this is the penalty. And for per instruction, what will be the penalty? 0.7x divided by x. That will be equal to 0.7. So 0.7 will be per instruction. So let's write CPI. CPI will be equal to CPI idle. What is CPI idle? 1 plus penalty per instruction. What is penalty per instruction? 0.7. So CPI will be equal to 1.7. So this is when we are writing this, when we are using this particular equation. Now let's use this equation, the second equation. So let me rub these things here. Okay. So what is second instruction says? CPI will be equal to CPI idle. What is CPI idle? 1 plus fraction of instruction is with a hazard. So let's first take raw hazard. So what fraction has a raw hazard? 0.1. So it has a raw hazard. So what is fraction here? 0.1 into penalty. And what is the penalty associated with raw hazard? 3. So this is for raw hazard. Plus now we have to consider which hazard? Control hazard. So what is the fraction of instructions with a control hazard? It will be 0.2 into 2. 2 will be the penalty. So total will be equal to 1.7. So here we can see that when we are writing this, so we have to add this for every hazard that is there in the program. So this is how we find out the CPI of a program on one processor. Now let's discuss one other problem here. So another problem. And we know that for a complete understanding these numericals, you have to try out as much numericals as possible. You can surf the internet and get the problems related to processor pipelining and try to solve those problems. Here I am just showing 1 or 2 problems so that it will give you a push to understand those particular problems. Okay, let me write a problem. Let's say we have a pipeline, 5-stage pipeline, and 5 stages are instruction fetch. Let's say instruction fetch takes 5 nanoseconds. Okay, then we have in an operand fetch, let's say it takes 6 nanoseconds. It is the time. Okay, and then let's say we have execute and it takes 11 nanoseconds. Then we have memory access. Let's say it takes 6 nanoseconds. And then we have write back, and let's say it takes 5 nanoseconds. Okay, so this is our pipeline. And we know that in a pipeline, whenever we have a pipeline, we have internal registers. Okay, so let's say we have latches between the stages, and each latch has 1 nanosecond delay. Okay, so this is our pipeline. Each latch has 1 nanosecond delay. Now we have to find out the speed up of this pipeline processor as compared to non-pipeline processor. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. But before doing that, we know what is the speed up. What is the equation for speed up? Speed up will be time taken by non-pipeline divided by time taken by pipeline. Okay, or we can say CPI of non-pipelined divided by CPI of pipeline. Okay, or in other words, we can say IPC. IPC of pipelined divided by IPC of non-pipelined. So this is how speed up is calculated. Fine. So we have to find out the speed up of this pipeline processor as compared to non-pipeline processor. So in this program or in this problem, you can see that the question is not talking about the program. So that means the program that we want to execute on this processor that has infinite number of instructions. Okay. How many instructions? Infinite. Let's take total number of instructions as X. Okay. So let's see on a non-pipelined processor, how much time will be taken. On which processor? Non-pipelined. So what is a non-pipelined processor? Non-pipelined first completes one instruction, then second instruction, then third instruction. Okay. So it won't start the second instruction before the completion of first instruction. So if we have a pipeline, for example, these are our stages 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So how many stages are there? 5. We are talking about non-pipelined. Non-pipelined means there won't be any in between registers, in between latches. So latches are used only in case of a pipelined processor. So since we are talking about non-pipelined, so we have these 5 stages, but there won't be any pipeline latch. So this takes 5 nanoseconds, this takes 6, this takes 11, this takes 6, this takes 5. So let's do the total. Total will be 6, 6, 12, 12 and 10, 22 and 11 will be 33 cycles. So in a non-pipelined processor, every instruction takes how many cycles? 33 cycles. Okay. So X instructions will take 33 X cycles. 33 into X, because each instruction is taking how many cycles? 33, and that means not 33 cycles, it is 33 nanoseconds. Sorry, it is time in nanoseconds. Okay, so that means our complete program will be executed in 33x nanoseconds. Now let's take a pipelined processor. In a pipelined processor, we know every instruction is completed in one cycle. Okay, so we have these pipeline latches in between in a pipelined processor, and this latch has how many nanoseconds delay? 1 nanosecond delay. So whenever you have to find a uniform pipeline for a non-uniform pipeline. So here it is a non-uniform pipeline. Non-uniform means every stage is taking a different time. So we will first make this pipeline as uniform. Uniform means that we will say that every stage is taking the same time. And what will be the time? The time will be the maximum of these. So what will be the maximum of these? The maximum of these is 11. However, we have to include the latch as well. So we will combine this latch with here. So it will take 12 is the maximum. So we will say every stage is taking 12 nanoseconds. So all the 5 are taking 12 nanoseconds time. Okay, and let's say 12 nanoseconds is equal to 1 cycle. How many cycles? 1 cycles. Okay, so that means every stage is here taking how many cycles? 1 cycle. And we know that in a pipelined processor, every instruction is completed in how many cycles? 1 cycles. So X instructions will be completed in how many cycles? X cycles. Now we know one cycle is equal to how many nanoseconds? 12 nanoseconds. So pipeline will take 12x nanoseconds to complete. So what will be the speed up? The speed up will be equal to time taken by non-pipeliner, that is 33x nanoseconds, divided by time taken by pipeliner, that will be 12x nanoseconds. So we will cancel these. The final speed up will be equal to 33 divided by 12. Fine. So what we have learned from this problem, we have learned that whenever we have a non-pipelineed processor, we don't consider the latches, in between latches. We remove those latches. And when we have a pipelined processor, we first make that pipelined processor as a uniform pipeline. Uniform pipeline means every stage will take the same time. And the time that they take will be the maximum time taken by any stage plus the latch. Okay, so maximum time is 11 plus the latch is 12. So 12 becomes the max. For example, this 5 plus 1 forms 6. This 6 plus 1 forms 7. 11 plus 1 forms 12. 6 plus 1 forms 7, and last will be 5. So what is the maximum? 12. So we have said everyone will take 12. Okay, and one cycle will be treated as equal to the maximum value, and then accordingly we will calculate. Okay, so this was one problem related to the speed up of a pipeline processor. Let's meet in the next lecture, in which we will be discussing about the memories. Till then, goodbye.